Hello. It has been a while, and there are many reasons for that. I suppose the most important reason was that I got discouraged. I see a world that is in such terrible shape, and try as I can, I have no influence on it. The only world I can really have influence on is the one I live in, and that's my garden. And even here, it's more of cooperation than control. So I went to WordPress and started up a new blog devoted to images, and a terrible problem happened. Milady could not, for the life of her, download my sometimes rather beautiful images and use them as screensavers like she could when I was on Blogger. So I moved back to Blogger, which gives me two blogs on Blogger. One is for images and photography, and I've decided that the other one, the one that I'm going to post this on, which has some depth of readership. In the month before I decided it was time to take a holiday from it, I believe I was in 79 different countries. I don't know that I'd made any difference, but it was kind of an ego trip. So I'm back, and what I've decided is that I will have one blog for my images and no political commentary, as it were, and the other will be with my images if I want to put them in, but basically political life commentary, which is what this is all about, you see, because I have reached a point where my typing skills, as bad as they usually were, are now terrible. Even worse, I am down to one-click typing using the on-screen keyboard, and I find that very restrictive. It definitely stops the flow of thought that's going on in my head. And even if I was to go to Microsoft and record it and then copy that and print it out in Blogger, I'd have to spend an hour or two going through it and checking out and correcting all of the silly little mistakes that Microsoft makes. Now, they've got a good recorder. It does a fine job. But out of a 1,000-word commentary, there's going to be anywhere between 20 and 100 minor mistakes one must catch or look like an idiot. And that takes a lot of time and a lot of typing. So I'm going to go with the video. I'm getting better at them. I've got some good software. They will look nice, I hope, and they'll make sense. So that's what's happening now. This blog is turning into a vlog, V-L-O-G-G. I guess that's how it's spelled. And today it's being shot from our patio. That's because the sky is got 9/10 cover, thunderclouds, dark clouds with just rain in them, and with occasional, that's what 9/10 does to you, moments of brilliant sunshine, which would make it difficult to get a decent video going. So today it's the patio, tomorrow it may be the upper pond. I've got a big yard with lots of places that I enjoy sitting in, so depending on the weather and the mood, the background for my commentary will change. Now, just a little history on this shot. We are looking at the head of a statue that Myra bought for me. It was a statue of the Goddess of Mercy. For the Catholic people who might see this, she's the Buddhist equivalent of Mary, Mother of God. So equivalent, in fact, that when the Catholic Church tried to proselytize China, they used a local artist of great skills to convert many of the Buddhist figures into Catholic saints. And he just did a marvelous work in merging Mary and the Goddess of Mercy. I may have to put her picture on this vlog. You'll see it's really rather a beautiful image. Not wishing to offend the Catholics who say, how could you do that? Or the Protestants who say, she's not the Mother of God. Or any of that other stuff. I just think the artwork was beautiful. And as a devious plot, it was right up there, and it didn't work very well, but it was a good devious plot. Now, what's to talk about? Well, lately in Canada, there has been a movement getting stronger and stronger amongst many people against pretend Indians, if I pronounce that correctly, people who claim Indian ancestry that aren't or don't have it. And while I agree that it is immoral and wrong to claim something you're not for financial gain or status, and that's what they've done in many cases, the argument, discussion about what is and what is not needed to make someone an Indian or indigenous, and yet people can't even come up to a real name for it. It's getting to be a very ugly peek into humanity. Some people believe, one person said when he was interviewed, it's simple, and he reached into his wallet and he pulled out his status card that the Canadian government gave him. He said, I'm a registered Indian, I've got a status card. You don't have a status card, you're not an Indian. And he put it back in his wallet, and that was the end of that discussion. Others would say that it is a question of you need a status card and you need to be truly Indian to be raised on the land in the traditional ways. And if you're not, you're an urban Indian, just a poor relative of us real Indians. But if you come back, we'll help you be a real Indian. And others say, oh, no, it doesn't matter where you're born or how you're raised. My golly, if you've got Indian blood in you, you're Indian. You're just genetically programmed to be different. And you can see this is getting very, very racist, very, very quickly. And I admit that I have a certain number of irons in the fire in this case. Truth in advertising, I was taken into a village. I was taken in to be trained to be a village minister. And during that training, a training that eventually came to include the entire village. It wasn't a big village, only about 600 people. But the people from all clans, from all status in the village. They all took time to train me and to help me learn what it meant to live, think, and be Indian. I was named in the feast hall, and my family was adopted. My daughter at the time was in grade 3 or 4, and they took her into the fish clan, which was an amalgamation of fish and killer whale. And there was a matriarch who was very old and had trouble walking, so they took Crystal into the clan, and her role was to be Melissa's walking cane, a live walking cane when she was in the feast hall. Crystal would help her go where she was going and be her cane. So they named her a beautiful name, which translated out in Low Kitimat was fish stick. And it made her think of those things that you eat, but it made the people of the village think of a cane that Melissa would use. Crystal had a little embarrassment over that name, but I thought it was marvelous. In any case, I do not claim Indian status or bloodline, but I do claim to have been taken into a culture that no longer lives. I was taught secrets that I'm not going to divulge now, even 30 years later. 30 years? Is that long? Yeah, it's about 30 years ago that happened. And in this argument going on about what is and what isn't, I can see where I'm not, but I can see where I know more about it than a lot that are. And it's not racist to say that. It's because I was given the task of learning that role and those secrets and how to perform and act properly and the right things to say and do in a given situation that were required of the Lapled, which was sort of a combination shaman, priest, rabbi, that was the name they gave me. There was a Pentecostal church in the village, and they had a Pentecostal pastor, whereas I was a member of the United Church of Canada, and because they had trained me, I was the village Lapled. Not claiming Indian status, but this whole thing has gotten so racist. Very much us versus them, and all it does is make enemies. There was a fellow who's renowned, and he put out a comment on this, a big long opinion that got printed, and I sent him an email, and I said, "Sir, when you call me non-native, you insult my ancestry. You insult my heritage. You insult me. I'm not a non-anything. You negate me. You put me in a box." And I said, "Is it not about time that both sides learn to talk to each other without insulting one another?" He would have been terribly insulted if I called him non-white or non-colonizer, to negate him that way, and it would have been wrong to. But it's reached the point I never got an answer from him, and it was a nice, polite letter. I don't know why he wouldn't answer it. But it's got very racist very quickly. And there are those who will say, "Oh, well, it has to be racist because we're fighting racism." And that's like saying you make peace by having a violent war. You don't get rid of racism by increasing the ante and being more and more racist. You get rid of racists by not being a racist. That's the only way to do it. And they're forgetting that in Canada. with the native issue, the Indian issue. The racists on both sides are driving the conversation. And what's needed on both sides are elders. And an elder to me came to mean someone who had learned how to live peacefully and with love in a really crummy world, because they had learned how to not forget. You can't forget, but they had learned how to forgive and love their enemies. Sounds very Christian, but it was very native too. That's the thing of it, folks. Spirituality, if you think of a cake, okay, you can take a plain chocolate cake and put whipped cream in it and some maraschino cherries, and you've got a Black Forest cake, give or take. You can take the same basic cake and cover it in a thick icing of chocolate fudge and white fudge, and you got a fudgy cake. And the cake's the same. It's the stuff on the outside that's modified. Spirituality is the same around the globe. We all walk that same path. It's just got a few add-ons and changes when you put the icing on due to the culture. But the basic spirituality, the core of it, is always the same. It's about learning how to walk in peace and love, and learning how to help people, and learning that the most important person is the one sitting opposite you, or behind you, or beside you. Anyway, this has gone on long enough. I'll go work this and get it out on the blog, and this will happen a couple times a week. Sometimes it'll be gentle, sometimes it'll be a rant, sometimes it'll make sense, and sometimes it won't. In any case, if it makes sense, use it. If it doesn't, well, you can get a laugh out of it if nothing else. Have a good day, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.